Many people have given their lives in the struggle for liberation, and their stories are recorded in archives and libraries across the world. But what happens when the headlines are over? To the families that remain, the wives, the children, what happens to their lives?
Verarbeiten können, dass das ganze Geld nicht nach Südafrika geschleppt wird.
Anton Lubowski was a prominent Namibian human rights lawyer and political activist for the country's independence. In 1989, he was assassinated, and to this day, his killers have never been found and brought to justice.
As an individual, by above all, and practice so we must dedicate ourselves.
For his family, his death was to change the course of their lives forever. His former wife, Gabrielle, dedicating 20 years to finding the answers and justice they needed, focusing her life and her energy around Anton and the many questions that still remain. Her book, On Solid Ground, tells Gabrielle's story.
Was it hard to write the book?
Well, once I wrote the first words, it just kept coming. Although in the beginning, the style was very heavy, long sentences. I think my own heaviness was still in it.
Wow. Life in the forest, eh, Gabrielle?
Mm-hmm.
As a child growing up in Namibia, Gabrielle lacked confidence. Her parents closeted her, driven by fears that she would die young. She didn't develop a strong sense of self and independence.
My mum had actually been told by a psychic that her first child would die as a baby, so my mother was petrified. That was tough for my mum, so I grew up overprotected. My parents had this constant fear, and my dad absolutely did everything for me. And I obviously enjoyed it. Even when I was at university, he would still do everything for me, do all the enrollment, do all the paperwork, write the letters. But what I didn't know is what he was actually telling me. You are not capable.
If I'd met you as a little girl, what kind of a little girl would I have met?
I liked action, things happening, and my parents were filled with fear. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So I felt very repressed, and I didn't obviously know. So I didn't quite understand what that sense, that fear was. The road to adulthood, the first stage is exploring. And if that is thwarted, if that's stopped, I think as a defense mechanism, I stopped myself from feeling.
At university in South Africa, Gabrielle met Anton. She wasn't interested in a relationship, but he pursued her.
Well, I always knew about Anton. He also grew up in Lutritz. It's just that we moved in different circles, and he could not get that I was not at all interested in him. It fascinated him so much because he was used to getting a lot of attention, especially from the girls. He even had a girlfriend when he was at UCT, but he told his mum when he crossed the border into Namibia, he knew I was the woman he was going to marry. I would only feel alive if I was with Anton. The moment he was out of my life, I went back to my deadness. So I wanted that. That was the only way I would feel alive. So there was no way that I would say to him no. I mean, my brain didn't even go there to say, is that really wise? And what you believe is when you get married, things will change. After we finished our studies in South Africa, Anton had this clear vision. He was going to go back to Namibia, do his articles, and I went along. I had a teaching job, and then I fell pregnant with my first child, a boy. He was born in 1978, and our little girl in 1983, Nadia. Then what happened is that Anton started getting interested in the political arena. In 1978, there was, for the first time, the talk that Namibia would become independent. As a lawyer, it just happened that he was visiting these young black guys in prison, and as he was interviewing them, he realized, but they're not criminals. What on earth is going on here? We had gotten so used to what was happening, and he said, wow, this is just not on.
The Lubowskis lived in the leafy white suburbs of Windhoek, and Anton's political activism took its toll.
My first year of school, we went to the German school, and I just remember the children always being very horrible, always teasing us about that we were this and we were that, and always needing to defend ourselves against it. And obviously at the time, I mean, being 7 years old, I didn't always exactly know what it was about.
What would they say to you, the kids?
It's all sort of German nicknames that you used to call us, and you know, we were betrayers and we were this. It's obviously things that they must have heard at home.
Anton once wanted to give my cousin's wife a lift in the car, and she just said to him, I'm sorry, you know, I cannot drive with you because if anybody would see me with you, my husband's work would be in jeopardy. Despite all this, we were never actually really scared. I always had that interesting sense that absolutely nothing could happen to Anton.
But another challenge faced Gabrielle. Although on the face of it the marriage seemed solid, Anton was not being faithful.
I was mostly with the two small children. We had them close to each other, mostly at home, and I wasn't a very social person. So unless Anton brought people home, you know, he was always out there. So when the first time, when I found out, you know, that he was having an affair, there were two things that happened for me. The one thing was because of my low self-esteem. Obviously that hit me very badly, because for me it was saying, you are not good enough, you are not worth it. In September 1988, we had planned a family holiday, and I was very excited about that, because I thought that might be now the time that we can connect. Because I was sad, you know, about, you know, the disconnect. But a day before we left for Cape Town, Anton tells me he's not going to join us. And then I decided, I told him, I think I'm going to move to Cape Town for 6 months. And I left with the children, and it was those holidays that I just felt that little bit of flame, that light I still had in me for our love, you know, died.